You're still watching K24's Newdon. My name is Joel Chacha. Even as today we focus on the state of politics. In studio, I'm joined by Muthiora Karriara, party leader, TGN. Seated in the middle is Rachel Omolo, governance expert and a politician, and as well Eric Theuri, former Law Society of Kenya president. And we begin with what is on our dailies this morning. In our own publication, that is Media Max, splashes that Azimio dead. Daily Nation, Raila move fuels Azimio breakup. The Standard newspaper, mass casualties in wake of Raila deal. The Star, why Ruto Raila deal puts Rigiji in a tight spot. And Taifa Leo, Raila aruka mawaziri. And ladies first, you know, according to the People Daily, Azimio is dead. Karua bolts out of coalition. Kalonzo refuses to join government and projects image of new opposition leader, even as Raila maintains he has no pact with Ruto. Still on the same cover page of the People Daily, before even getting to the nitty-gritties of Azimio, Ruto cabinet hits first roadblock. Now to Rachel, this actually concerns women of this country. Ruto cabinet fails to comply with gender rule. President William Ruto's newly unveiled cabinet hit the first roadblock yesterday after the National Gender and Equality Commission raised concerns that the list did not meet the two-thirds gender requirement, as well as it does not have any representation of persons with disabilities. According to Babo Wino, the only disabilities that the president has considered is mental disabilities. Rachel, you know, what do you make of President William Ruto's cabinet? It is now set for vetting next week on Thursday.
Thank you, Chacha. One, of course, we all were hoping that this time around as women of Kenya, that you are going to see the two on the third being women. That means about 13 of us being there, and this time around we expected only 7 to meet the one-third gender rule, because the gender does not only refer to women of this country. But that again, I wouldn't say that he has failed to achieve, because we still have one more slot, and we are hoping that one slot would go to the women of Kenya to make us to make the president meeting the gender rule.
What makes you believe that, you know, just looking from what happened, the AG nominee initially was Rebecca Miano. All of a sudden, there was again yet another reshuffle. She's no longer the nominee, AG nominee. She would have set already the history.
Our joy was short-lived by the president appointing or nominating Miano to be the AG. I sincerely do not know what informed that thought, and sometimes as a governance expert, I would want to say, if you look at the cabinet in its entirety, then the move, why then first you ask yourself, why do you fire and then hire without explanation? And secondly, if you look at the shift of Miano, for example, one time he was in East Africa, and before then he was taken to trade, and then now to AG, and then now to tourism. It's like you gamble with her. You are not fit for this one, you're not fit for this one, you're not fit for this. So it's also, you wonder what informed the president on picking some of the nominees for the positions which he did. It doesn't position a woman well, that you can fit, you know, like a jack of all trade kind of a thing, that you can fit anywhere, as much as it's more to do with administration. But then we also expect the president to look at what are you good at, and what would be your output into his government. So yes, one, I would say we are still hopeful as the women of Kenya that the president would add us that one slot remaining. But even if that is not, does not happen, it doesn't mean that it will not happen in the future, but we are hopeful that that would come. And again, the president also picking from the minority in parliament speaks loud on the way he wants. One, I would think he wants to literally kill the multi-party democracy in this country. Remember before, even with this, within the Kenya Kwanza coalition, the president wanted most of the small parties to fold up to join his party. And then we saw even after that, he decided he also want to work with Jubilee, and also pushing if Jubilee could also still join UDA. We've already seen Musalia Mudavadi's party. They've signed a merger with him. So I think he's looking at how can I well survive tomorrow? What are my survival chances to come 2027? So it's not just a matter of why did he pick all these people, but it is not for now, it is for 2027 going forward. I want to have a cabinet which speaks about inclusivity, be it peoples with disability, as Babu had cited that is even lacking, did not meet the two-thirds gender rule, but he wants to appear like the broad base kind of government that he was talking about was just to bring more politicians so that he quells or he finds a way of calming the issues that we are having, the emerging issues in the country.
To Muthiora, you know, President William Ruto got another opportunity to reset his government. 20 nominees for the cabinet secretary positions, of course, Musalia Mudavadi was still there, are now ready to be vetted beginning next week, Thursday, that is on 1st. It will be on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yeah. And concerns already are here that this cabinet, first of all, is not properly constituted. Are you holding that opinion as well?
100%, and it's obvious. First, look at the composition that we are still relying on hope that the one opportunity left will go to women. That's not a good place to be at right now when we had all positions in cabinet open. So that first metric tells us that we are not headed in the right direction. Now, whatever fermented the dissolution of cabinet was the pressure that the Gen Z movement has been exerting on President William Ruto. And in his appointment, and even that of ODM, we have not seen a face that can purport to be representing Gen Zs.
Murkomen is a youthful leader, according to perhaps the president. He was among the youngest cabinet secretaries in the previous cabinet.
Now, you're talking about Murkomen.
There's also a 32-year-old in the agricultural docket.
Yes. Now, that's one out of all the positions. The demographics in Kenya are such that majority of Kenyans are youthful. So when you have just one representing the majority in a population, we actually can just round that off, that they are not included. The key dockets in government are known to be finance, are known to be education, are known to be defense, and we do not have anyone representing the most important or critical population.
Is there a good consideration
segment
with a woman now being, you know, in the defense docket? So Pantuya.
Well, her credentials have been questioned as to whether she's suitable given her background. So, her being part of a cabinet
but
that
at least
had
there's
failed.
good faith.
Good faith and suitability are two different things, and I'm sure my colleagues here will bear me out.
You're being biased.
I'm not being biased. Remember that Kenyans questioned the performance of the cabinet that William Ruto had appointed. So when she's reappointed, we judge her based on the record we have already seen. So yes, she may be holding a critical docket, and McHugh, it was not first choice. There was a reshuffle that moved her there. So in a way, we can't say that this was deliberate. It's fluke-like move. Now, that said, you began by mentioning that Raila Odinga in the Taifa Leo headline has jumped those who were appointed. Now, that can't be the case because...
We'll actually be getting to that. Just allow me to cut you short so that we focus on this cabinet reconstitution, especially on gender representation, women, youth, and as well the male who are there. And not to Eric Theuri, as you know, the former Law Society of Kenya president, you got a chance to work with President Ruto, or his regime found you in office. At some point, he even decried that you are keen to sabotage his leadership. With this cabinet that has now been unveiled by President William Ruto, according to the National Gender and Equality Commission, it does not meet the gender threshold. If at all, the one slot that Rachel is hopeful they will be given the AG for it to at least make the numbers balance, is there a case that can block this whole cabinet from taking over office legally?
Yes, I think so, because you will remember even when the last cabinet was unveiled, the Law Society then did challenge the list on the question of the gender threshold. Of course, we were not successful, but that case was not decided on merit. It was decided on technicalities, and somehow we felt that the court did not have the appetite then to disturb the new government, considering the very close relationship that had developed between the new administration and the judiciary then. And it's for that reason that we did not pursue it. So I think someone can challenge it because the gender parity question is a constitutional requirement. So it can be challenged, but then of course there's still a position that is left in cabinet. So you never know, it can actually just meet the threshold. But the question here, I think, is not so much one of gender per se. It's a question of whether the appointments actually reflect the spirit of the Constitution. And I think we've grappled in this country with whether cabinet secretaries should actually be people with expertise in particular areas, or they should be political appointees.
That is technocrats, in other words.
Yes, and I think that you get the sense that the Kenyan people would want to see more technocrats.
But one would argue that even before one gets to be an MP or a senator, they usually have years of experience in their various fields. I mean, even some doctors are in parliament with over 30, 40 years experience. When there is an opportunity for them to take over, let's say, the cabinet secretary for health, be it principal secretary positions, why should they just be left out because they had initially, expressed their interest in politics or have been in active politics?
No, that's not precise. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm basically saying that if you're a doctor and then you're put in charge of the Ministry of Health, okay, somebody begins to see that perhaps we are thinking that your experience and expertise in this area is what has motivated that appointment. Yeah. But if you are a doctor and then you are put in the Ministry of Tourism, and then and then someone who perhaps has been a hotelier, who has exposure in in business and whatever, is then made the minister or the CS of health, you then get to that point where you are unable to appreciate the motivation. And I think we were talking about this when you have you know, one person being nominated for this position, even before something else happens, they have been changed. You have moved, you know,
Yes.
from one ministry to the other. So that I'm just saying is a broader conversation that we need to have. And I'm saying it because sometimes some of the things that we talk about look like ideals. And that, you know, as they say, the ground ni tofauti, the reality is different. Where we would want to go as a country is a place where we can begin to see some level of ideology in people and be able to see why someone has been put in a particular position. And not just because, you know, maybe they come from one political formation or the other.
Perhaps that could be as a result of, you know, Kenyans, when you go to universities, graduate, the job you really get was not what actually you went to study. Well, now to Rachel. You know, there is a 20-member committee that will be chaired by the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula. It includes Kimani Ichung'wah as a member that will be responsible for vetting the presidential nominees. And among other members also, there is a Suna East Member of Parliament, Junet Mohammed, Robert Mbui of Gathiani, Owen Baya, Kilifi North, David Kagira of Nakuru East, Rahim Dawood of North Imenti, and Caleb Kositani, and as well David Kosing of Pokot South, Mishi Mboko of Likoni, Naisula Lesuda, Samburu West, and as well Gladys Sholei, who will serve as the committee's deputy chairperson. Understanding that a committee plays a very critical role, especially in Parliament, so we have, you know, Moses Wetangula, who became a speaker by the virtue that he supported President William Ruto to get to office. Gladys Sholei, an ally of also Kenya Kwanza government, these are persons that we entrust to vet presidential nominees. Will it not be a rubber stamp as we've witnessed in the past with Parliament? Can we perhaps change on how we vet our cabinet secretaries?
First, let me just add on to what Deuri had said. We needed to have asked ourselves also if the nominees for the various ministries, do they really respond to the questions that Kenyans raised? You know, you are looking at Professor Kindiki, who's been put back in the same ministry, and one of the reasons why we've also seen a revolt and Gen Zs continuing to protest is that those who were arrested, some of them have not even been released. We've seen abductions. Those young ones, we don't even know their whereabouts. So again, it's a question of even the committees, representatives who've been going to vet them. I think they need to ask themselves, which way Kenya? I'm going to vet my friend, whom I know for sure has made us lose 60 lives in a span of 60 days, 30 days, because yesterday was exactly a month since the protests began. So how are they going to engage with him with the kind of the bloodshed that we've seen? Many people losing properties under his watch, and yet he's the president's nominee for the very same position. And the president even gave a nod yesterday and saying, I think Professor did a pretty good job. So in short, when he comes that side, mwone na macho nini, umwangalie, you know, be kind to him. So in as much as we have our various representatives for the committees going to vet them, I think it's the same list of the people who vetted them, except now for Mbadi and Opio, who is missing from the list that you've just read. I think it's going to be merely a rubber stamp, just a normal process, a formality, which shouldn't be, because we need to see these people grilled. As we say, matters expertise. If you look at the person posted for whatever ministry, do they foot the bill? Do they fit that particular position that they've been posted? Someone has a background of agriculture and you're taking him to, you know, and if you also look at experience, you'd also say that, okay, he's held this managerial position, so he can actually be a very good administrator. That is also lacking. So for me, what I would want to see them do is that can they now respond to the needs of the Kenyans by them now being our eye during the vetting process? Because if they say these people are not moving and there's no lobbying like we saw last time, where the president calls and says, you pass all the names the way they are, then we are going to see a better Kenya tomorrow. But if it's just a matter of rubber stamping the names, then again, we are yet to see another crop of protests coming up. Reason being, they're not going to perform because I've been put here as a friend. And also allow me to say this, that if you look at the members of Azimio who have been nominated for the various positions, I don't know where that puts the integrity question in the Constitution. Because we have our principles, we have ideologies like they already had spoken about, but then these are the same people who were here talking about this hustler fund is not good for the nation. Ambadi spoke about the finance bill, but now here it is being given a docket and is supposed to raise money for us, or revenue for us. How is he going to do it? What other measures is he going to come up with? So is it a matter of putting a personal interest before, or are we going to see them saying, this is the way we would want the country to be run? We are due for a short commercial break.
Muthiora,
yes.
You know, the Moses Wetangula-led committee has not been tasked with this vetting of the presidential nominees for the positions of cabinet secretaries. And we have diehards there. Kimani Ichung'wah, you know, Gladys Bosh-Olei. Should Kenyans expect anything different? Can they even go ahead and try and challenge the president's list by rejecting some of the cabinet nominees, cabinet secretary nominees?
Kenyans have expressed themselves about the list that has come out. And yes, there are pockets of support for the list that's out there already, but majority remain opposed to the recycling that has happened. Can Kenyans expect anything good from the nominees, or rather from the vetting process? And the answer is no. The 20-member committee is drawn from a section of parliamentarians who in one day voted yes to the Finance Bill 2024, and then the next day they were clapping for the president when he said he was not going to assent to the bill. So that speaks to the competence of the parliamentarians we have. So it would be shortchanging ourselves to expect that this vetting process is going to be of any value. What's going to happen is, if indeed there is a partnership between ODM and the Kenya Kwanza coalition, they're going to rubber stamp all the nominees.
A theory, you know, on Wednesday, the Homa Bay Town Member of Parliament, Opondo Kaluma, stated categorically that if President William Ruto will adopt the list as it is from Raila Odinga, they will ensure all the cabinet secretaries sail through, the nominees. Can we, or is it possible to have a different way of vetting these nominees rather than having the speaker, who is also a Kenya Kwanza, let's say, principal, leading the committee? Can the law provide an alternative?
Not really, because ultimately the vetting function must be performed by Parliament. Yeah. I think the thing that we should be asking is that there be true and meaningful vetting. I would want to see a situation where, if in the course of the public giving their views, there are serious reservations about one or two nominees, that then Parliament takes a look at those nominees or looks at those issues that have been raised against that nominee. If there are questions about suitability of the nominees to any of the positions, that Parliament does the right thing. Right. You have to remember that the last time there was one they had a problem with. And they...
That is Benina Malonza.
Yes, and eventually, you know, there was an override and that person became a nominee. So I think that the test right now is in Parliament.
Well, at that juncture, we are taking a short commercial break. And remember, on the Cabinet Secretary's nominees vetting, you have until August 1st to submit your views on the nominated CSs before the vetting exercise begins. And the vetting will take place, that is on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. At that juncture, we take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll be focusing on the state of politics. Azimio dead. Raila Odinga, is he in government or not? Kalonzo Musyoka, will he be the next Azimio principal? Babu Wino, is he the chief opposition leader, among others? Keep the conversation going. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.